Hello, and welcome to the Non-Pro Show, where we bring internet arguments into a convenient audio form. I am your host, Al, and I'm joined by Frank, and we are also joined in the studio by John Minus.
Hello. I don't know why I say hello like that.
Yeah, you said it very creepily.
I said it like my protagonist just arrived.
You said it in a way that as if that was part of who you are, but who are you, John?
I am a comedian and podcaster and layabout.
Raconteur. Layabout. Good. Very good. A man about the town?
Yeah.
Yep.
All right, great.
And we're also joined by Jen Yoko.
おはよう。私はジェンちゃん。よろしくお願いします。Hey, I'm Jen. I'm a voice actor, a professional voice actor. So, like, I do different voices. It's fun for me, and I get paid for it.
This is going to make a very confusing podcast for some people who are going to be like, who am I listening to? Actually, Jen was playing the voice of John Minus earlier in this introduction.
That's true.
But we're here to talk to you about Falcon and the Winter Soldier. We were all watching this, and it just ended about a week ago, and we all have like a lot of thoughts and feelings about it that we wanted to share with all of you. Because, if this isn't a live-action internet forum, what is it then?
Yeah. Yes, I thought this was the second Marvel TV show I have watched this forced I don't know what I'm saying. Yes, it was great. I loved it. I love Falcon and the Winter Soldier. It was a lot of fun, and I felt just only a little uneven. It was mostly good, but only a little uneven. But I think we're going to talk about why it might have been uneven later in the podcast.
Ooh, foreshadowing. I'm kind of in agreement with you, Frank. I feel like it's a really great stellar show with a lot of stellar scenes in it, plagued only by a few minor mishaps or oddities that we'll go into later as the podcast goes on. But like as far as our impressions about the show, we really enjoyed it, or at least you and I do.
Yeah, we're the only ones who count. Nah. Oh, I'm sorry.
What about
John, what did you
guys?
think? Yeah,
I really, really enjoyed it. I mean, I think I have a problem, like an addiction to Marvel things, because whenever I hear the Marvel Studios music, I get an endorphin rush.
Oh,
And
God,
when
yeah.
I don't have it, I get like really down. So I don't think I actually can not like any of their stuff. It may
It's
be
like
a neural.
heroin.
Yeah, I think my neurons have arranged themselves in a way that anything they put out, I will like.
that does not bode well for you as a reviewer.
No, not at all.
It was amazing. Everything is amazing. Great all the time.
Everything is amazing because I'm high. Yeah,
I agree that music was the first bit of normalcy I had in my life.
with WandaVision.
Yeah. It's very
Dude.
sad but true.
Your serotonin levels must be high. You got to get that Marvel ASMR all up in your bones.
Yes.
So hear me out on this. The Marvel takeover is now our TGIF Fridays on ABC, but this time it's on Disney. And I swear to you, I feel like we're reliving the past again, but through action films instead of sitcoms. And back in the late 80s, early 90s, we had, TGIF, we had like Family Matters, Step by Step, was a Full House, but now we got WandaVision, we got the Falcon, we're getting Shang-Chi coming up. This is our TGIF right now. I'm just saying, guess what? They taught us lessons back in the past, and a lot of them very similar to now, except that the tone and the political the area is much different now than it was back then. That's all I was going to say.
I cannot believe that Perfect Strangers got a snub. No Perfect Strangers love.
My bad.
80s TV was far more progressive than it is today.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
It was way more progressive.
I think streaming shows maybe have caught up a little bit because there's no holds bar, but yeah, for television, definitely.
The second or third episode of
Perfect Strangers, Balky strangled someone.
Yeah,
and it was just
well,
like, it was fine.
And the second or third episode of the first episode of Night Court was about mental illness and suicide. The third episode was about a trans woman
Yo, Night
Mm.
Court.
The
Yeah, I
third
love Night
episode,
Court.
like there was a Golden Girls they had an
Golden
AIDS
Girls was
episode.
amazing.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
Yeah, no, if you really look, like 80s TV was very progressive, and then the 90s were in the middle, and then the 2000s went way the other way. But like when you say those, I think of those kind of shows as like A Team, Knight Rider.
Oh yeah,
There was
they
a lot of action shows, Dukes of Hazzard,
Riptide.
Riptide, The Fall Guy.
Don't
It
Riptide.
was, it
Don't
was
all
in
Yes,
right.
there.
and Riptide.
Don't just acknowledge Riptide as if it wasn't just
It
some.
was in there. It was about a boat.
We know what Riptide was about, but we only know about it because we did a March Madness about it, and it was stupid.
And it
All right.
But yeah, there were a
Especially
lot of action-oriented hour-long shows, and Chuck actually even like went back. I don't know if anybody remembers Chuck. It was actually on for a long time
Mm.
for nobody
I remember
remembered.
Chuck.
But Chuck resurrected a lot of not resurrected, but Chuck had that air of the '80s action show, and now we're getting it again. A little more feelings, but
Mm.
still, but better production value.
Much
So
better production.
yeah, much better production value. So it balances
You
out.
almost know people jumping over the camera a la A-Team in
Eh,
Falcon and the Winter Soldier, which was actually a misstep.
it was a
that opening
misstep.
helicopter scene. I mean, that's movie magic.
That
Right
was
there.
Airwolf.
There's so much
Yeah.
going on in that first fight scene, like, and it hooks you right away.
Yes. Yeah, the production values of the show are phenomenal, but I think the thing that made it stand out the most for me was the character development. Over 6 episodes, so here's I guess my opening volley. I started out. I like the character of Sam. I like Falcon. Um, I had no real interest in seeing him move on to be Captain America or anything. Wasn't opposed to it. Didn't really care because kind of like this, the character of Falcon was relatively minor in most of the Marvel movies. He was, I would say up with Maria Hill as being there, but not necessarily the focus of any film, right? So they had 6 episodes to win me over. I didn't even think that's what they were going to do, and they absolutely did. I have such a vested interest in this character, and Bucky's the same thing. Like, he's cool, he's fine, but he's just like this guy who moves the plot forward. This series makes me love the characters and want to see more from them. So like that is impressive.
No, I was gonna say, and the thing with Sam, like I was very interested in whatever was gonna come next, 'cause I didn't know how it was gonna go with him getting the shield. Like there were any number of ways it could have gone. And so I was very interested in seeing how this was gonna go. And I think in the 6 episodes it concluded in a way that made sense
Mm.
for everybody. And that's hard to do.
I think they could have only done it as a TV show. I think if this
Yeah.
had been a movie, it would have been like too short to really get that vested interest. Anthony Mackie's great. Sebastian Shaw, Stan, is it Sebastian?
Yeah.
Is great. I mean, they are great, and they have great chemistry, and you knew that from all like the like promotional Avengers stuff that came out. But 6 episodes, you get to see them pull a story together that I never would in 1,000 years thought they would have done in a movie or in television, and I'm psyched to be talking about it.
Yeah, it's
I what confuses me is that the last movie foreshadowed Sam as being the Falcon. Like, I knew he was going to be the Falcon, no question, no hesitation. Because even in the comics, Sam and Falcon and Captain America were just BFFs. Like, even back in the '60s. So this is I'm surprised that people are surprised because this is really nothing new. But if you don't read I'm not really reading the comics. I grazed over some of them. Like they had a run where I read it briefly, where Captain America gave Sam Wilson the shield, and then he was evil. So and then we had to fix that. Yay, all that stuff. So.
Yeah, I don't think the comics I think it's kind of like a mistake to gatekeep for and I'm not saying that's what any of us are doing. We say like you have to read the comics first to really get these stories, because I don't think you do. These comics are all over the place for decades. They've never been, and nobody who read the comics was like surprised. Would have been surprised to see. And I think earlier I said Sebastian Shaw instead of Sebastian Stan, as
who
if
is
the
from
Marvel,
the Hellfire Club,
yes,
right?
the Marvel,
Yeah. Is he
yeah,
the
no,
is he the Black
he's a great
King?
guy. He's a great guy. I think he's awesome. Kevin Bacon, but anyways, I lost track of Kevin Bacon played him in the movie. I lost track of what I was saying, but yeah, no one was, I think, surprised by it. But like, you could definitely do something that's telegraphed or projected or like known to happen in a movie. Let's say, controversial, the death of Gwen Stacy in a Spider-Man movie, was one of these Spider-Man movies
I'm
happened.
sorry, but that made me laugh. I don't mean to be mean when
No,
she died. I'm
literally, it was
sorry.
sort of like, okay, good. I'm glad we got that scene out because we all knew it was coming. Like, why? Like, that didn't matter and everything. This could have also been a nothing. Here, we pass the shield to you, and next movie he shows up in a Falcon red, white, and blue suit, and people are just like, I don't know, I don't care. But they ain't. They like took it on. They said, no, we're gonna make this a story about race in America and about how it's a very thinly veiled cover, but like the fact that the media or the populace, the people, would never accept a black Captain America. That's both in universe and out universe, right?
Yeah,
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 And
yeah.
that's so good. Such a good. I've talked too much, but
and,
I'm so impressed.
and Sam had to. And like speaking of the comics, I didn't get to read a lot of them, but yeah, he had to do that in the comics too. Like people are like, "You're not my Captain America." Even like the bad guys were
Oh
like,
my god! If you're
"Where's the
damned if you do.
where's the other guy?" It's like really, like not that I care about your opinion, but still.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
But
they did a great job with bringing in like the Isaiah Bradley story arc
yeah,
for
they're
him.
weaving in truth. The this truth
The graphic
storyline in
novel.
it was
Yeah.
very good. It was
Hmm.
very very good,
Yeah.
and also the idea that just because he was the old guy didn't mean his opinion was right.
It's true.
They've been doing that I mean, not that they've been doing it a lot, but it's kind of a thing in Marvel movies. If you look at it, that the way things are weren't the way they should have been. That was a big that was a big part of Black Panther, and
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I get what you're saying.
and even like with getting rid of Shield, and renewing Shield, there's the idea that Isaiah was very bitter, and he's like no self-respecting black man should ever be Captain America, and then Sam's sister was like, he's old and bitter. He was like, and they never even said it. They showed it. They didn't say it how being Captain America was important to the next generation.
Yeah.
Yep.
They didn't say it. Like they just showed, like he was looking at his nephews and looking how impressed they were with him, and he was like, I'm not doing it for them, I'm doing it for these guys.
Yeah.
And the fact that they didn't say it, it just happened, was better storytelling than most.
I'll explain for white people. Remember in the original Rocky movie where
Oh
Rocky
my god!
leaves and he
Yes.
follows his trainer out, and they don't say it's a silent scene, and he kind of apologizes and gets him to be his trainer again because he's an old guy and maybe he was a little rough with him. That's what that was. It doesn't have to be explicit in the dialogue.
Is
Yeah.
everybody on board it now?
Everybody got that? So all
Okay.
right, good. I think we're good.
But I will say like his opinion's still valued because like it does mess Sam up a bit. Like he has to think on it. He has to go through a
Yeah.
process. He goes and he sees his family, and which is also great, really, because it gives such a vehicle for someone that Sam can bounce off of, and it sets up for the kids scene later on we were talking about. And it just a lot of really great like not shortcuts to storytelling, but like organic storytelling
Hmm.
that sort of all really work together around that character. And like if their job is to sell you as sell Sam as Captain America, then that mission statement succeeds.
To jump on back to Isaiah real quick, his opinion is really what black people think. Some black people think there have been stories and interviews, and I used to listen to NPR a lot, where certain towns were just so segregated down south that they had like historical events happen and they would keep the stories to themselves because they'd get ignored or their stories would be taken away. So seeing Isaiah live through that and me hearing stories of other black people like in the areas that I live down here and hearing it on the radio, I was like, yo, this is too real. It's kind of resonating a little too hard. And I'm like, mind you, that hasn't happened to me, but people need to know out there that people like Isaiah exist to an extent you don't understand.
Well, yeah. I mean, I and a lot of other black people were like, we didn't come here for this, and now we have all these feelings. Like it just got way too real. Like that first time he went to his house was
Mm-hmm.
way too real, and we were like, we didn't. What? Ow! What? It was yeah. This just like WandaVision got into way more into people's heads than they expected. You know,
Mm.
at some point, like people with grief and loss and stuff,
Yeah, I
and
don't think anyone went in there thinking like I'm dealing with grief. I'm dealing with loss. I know that Wanda lost her robot husband. I hope they deal with it. Like I don't think anybody walked in expecting that, and yet there we are.
I don't think anybody expected to feel it so personally
Yeah.
in WandaVision. And then in this again, it was like you see you're watching a show, but it's kind of like you're experiencing something, but you didn't expect it to go past it being an experience to something you like actually identify with and like makes you feel from um a place of like true thought and depth in yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, those episodes but then like when it's over, you're like, wow, I really, that was really cool that that happened. And I think the same thing happened with a lot of veterans with Bucky and with John Walker. But one of the things with Bucky in the first episode, he's sleeping on the floor. And I have a bad memory, but people with memory remember he had a conversation with, was it Steve? He had a conversation with somebody in a previous movie about how he sleeps on the floor because it's because he's so used to
Being in the slab. Yeah.
sleeping on rocks that he can't sleep on a comfortable bed anymore. And that's the cool thing about Marvel. Like little thing, they don't forget little
Consistency.
things.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, every aspect of the story, how they weaved back in is impressive to me, including the Isaiah Bradley and the truth story. If you had told me that there's going to be a TV show and it's going to be kind of like a version of the Kyle Baker comic, which I think John you gave me at one point years ago,
Yeah.
truth, and I'd be like, I don't know if that would work. Luckily, I don't produce shows for Marvel because they definitely
I would
seamlessly worked it
I would wonder what he would do.
my show for Marvel, but we could do that as a Patreon only exclusive. It won't be fun for anyone involved.
Sounds hot.
Uh,
Yep.
yes,
I will
but
say I
yeah,
really like this one of the opening scenes with Bucky with his therapist, and there's that scene where he's kind of just pitching like, oh, I just want to be at peace. I want to be left alone. She's like, oh, it's BS. Like you want to do something. Like, don't tell me that like this is like, oh, I just want to be left alone. I don't want anything else to happen. It's like I've been there. I know you want to go and do something. It's okay. Find something to do with your life. It's okay.
mm,
I felt so bad for that therapist. I was like, oh no, the episode with both of them in the room with the therapist. I was like, oh my god, I would quit. I would quit. Like these two are ridiculous.
they're too charming. That's why I originally wanted to be a therapist, and then I realized, oh, that's not real.
And some people thought that she was too harsh, but I think that was they were. I think they were thinking of like I wouldn't respond to that. Like those two, Bucky and Sam, are not going to respond to a like huggy, feely, touchy therapist.
Yeah,
They're going to be they're both military men. They're going to respond to somebody yelling at them and like confronting them. Those two need a confrontation. They don't need like humanistic kind of, you know, unconditional positive regard. They need confrontation. So she was the perfect therapist
It
for
is a
them.
TV show, like
Mhm.
with a grain of salt. Like obviously, like maybe there are actions she would take in the TV show that are not like what a real, actual, like licensed therapist would act like or a psychologist. Like there, it's a TV show, so there's some
yeah.
caveat to some of that.
I
Like,
I think
but
that's true,
she
but I
both has it.
also like I know that John works in mental health, and he's a terrible psychologist and therapist. He's just a monster who has basically tried to recreate his favorite episodes of Golden Girls in I don't know what I'm saying. That court.
But yeah, no, confrontation is an accepted therapeutic tool.
Mm,
And that's what she was doing with Bucky, but especially when people aren't being honest with themselves or the therapist, you have to go towards those areas where there's friction and resistance and open them up. So she was going towards the resistance, and his resistance was that saying I'm fine when like it was obvious he wasn't fine. it was also really interesting how she had him have a book of making amends, because that's a 12-step kind of thing. In 12-step programs, they have a list of like making, they even call it saying making amends to people you've hurt or wronged when you weren't sober. And it wasn't like a sober thing with Bucky. It was
That was
that,
pretty close. Yeah. Yeah, I mean,
yeah,
he
I get,
was
he wasn't
not.
in control.
Yeah. And he may have been responsible for not being in control, which I think is very arguable. But whatever. Let's say that's the guilt he has, is that he
Yeah,
thinks he's responsible for not being in control. So that's why he's making amends to things where he wasn't sober. It's very clever.
yeah. Yeah, and him having, like, he had his own form of PTSD just from giving so many other people PTSD.
Oh my God, stop! It's funny because it's terribly true.
Yeah.
Oh,
He's like, I have hurt so many people. And
Mm,
yeah, it's a his head is a messed up place.
mm.
And that explains why he has fallen and is deeply in love with black women, which makes total sense.
I'm not going to address that one, but I do want to go back a little bit. Feel free to write letters. We'll give social media
I have
handles.
evidence.
All right. I don't want to. Does anybody else want to handle that before we transition off
oh
now?
yeah, I'm worse because I was all like, "Yes, I'm going to ship Bucky and Sam together in the therapist room and write dirty fan fiction of how they have angry Nookie
So
later
you're
on."
so you're
Yes.
80% of the internet.
I
Yeah.
mean, if you go on fanfiction.net, an archive of our own, and you want to have that therapy
I
the
try not
right
to.
way,
Mm.
I
The
mean,
The right way.
I try
I
not
mean,
to go to AO3.
I will say, I really want to talk about like that performance in the in Wakanda with Sebastian, where he's like, he really gives like his all in when Ao is saying the words that are supposed to set off the Winter Soldier, and
Oh
just
yeah.
that like that fear and relief in that scene is just really really captivating. It's really good, stellar work.
Mm.
Yeah, and he broke down in tears. But that's what I'm talking about. Like he's Bucky's whole arc has been him going to black women to heal him.
oh yeah, oh okay, I got you
Mm.
now. I see where
Mm.
you guys are going.
Mm.
You know
I
what? I'm
mean,
gonna take
it's
that back. I agree with you. Just the worst part is it's
Hey,
like
fan fiction writers, just think about it. Just you want to just.
fan fiction writers do not like heterosexual couples.
Mm.
it's
That is
true.
that's
That is
what
true.
AO3 has taught me.
Okay. I don't feel comfortable addressing any of this. There's very little that I can. So let's move on to Zemo, someone who is of my persuasion, evil. No, wait, that's not a good segue.
No, wait. There's all right. Let me just
Yeah.
finish that point. I saw a meme about Bucky that was great. It said that Bucky's the only white man that's been invited to the cookout on 2 separate continents
Yo, it's true. It's true.
because he's
Stop.
in Wakanda and in New Orleans.
No.
He's the only
Mm,
white guy there, so he's doing something right.
good. Yeah.
He's seen
Yeah.
oppression. I mean, that's he's been there.
He's
I love
really
it.
good looking. That helps.
Yeah. Well.
I mean, yeah, that's fair. He is very good looking.
He liked the
So on
booty.
to
He do.
another really good looking guy.
How is that is that a transition back to Zemo?
Yeah,
I would agree. No, actually, I just want to because I think we slipped into characterization, and that which is great. But we talked a lot about Bucky. But I don't want Sam to just be swallowed up on the story that was told with him. Anthony Mackie delivered on this character
Oh, 100%.
throughout the series, like super, like same level of I'm going to say Steve Rogers, Chris Evans delivery of this is a human being who is perfect and beautiful and wonderful that you actually root for, which is really hard to do. I think
Yeah.
it's really difficult to pull a person who's just like, I am the epitome of goodness, and you like me. That's really difficult to play off, and he does it because he delivers an incredibly human performance throughout.
And
Somebody
he's not
joked about
boring.
yes, and he's fun to watch, and he's funny, and he's got great chemistry with almost every character he interacts with. It's all perfect, like his sister with Bucky, everyone. and it's really, really good. And somebody once joked when the first episode aired and said, "I didn't realize this Marvel was doing like heartwarming tales about a fishing boat going
Yeah,
across." And
that's
I'm
really
like,
the whole story.
and I'm like, yes, and it was really well done. I liked it. I enjoyed it. So maybe a little praise for Sam before we move on.
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
because it's a very singular role in American history, because when you play Captain America now, you don't play Captain America. You have to be Captain America, or else people won't buy it.
Yeah.
Like if Chris Evans was a bastard, they wouldn't buy Chris Evans as Captain America.
No one would
No,
give a
100%.
damn. No
Yeah,
one would give a
you
damn.
have you
I
if
saw this one thing like he did with, I think it was like Vanity Fair. I can't remember exactly, but Anthony Mackie was talking about like, oh man, it was a really another great thing about like that Captain America outside the role moment of when his son saw him get the shield in Endgame, and it didn't hit his son until a week later. Like, oh my God, my dad's Captain America. Like, oh, I'm so proud of you, Dad. And like they're both crying on the phone. It's so sweet.
Aw.
yeah, it's like you can't say another role like that has such importance, like culturally.
Can you tell that geeks are doing this podcast? No other role. No actor could find a role as important as Captain America.
No, but no,
You
but
put
like
Olivier
mu-
wanted to play Captain America, but he died too early.
the franchise wouldn't work if you didn't believe the actor. That's what
No,
I'm
absolutely.
saying.
Yeah, you're right.
Maybe not important to culture, but like to the success of the movie.
I agree.
That's fair.
Any other praise for Sam before I abruptly push us back into Zemo?
Yo, Sam and I, we should all play basketball. That's all I gotta say. That's all I'm gonna say.
Mm-hmm. So let's talk a little bit about the real main character, who doesn't even get title billing, Baron Zemo.
You're always that guy.
I'm actually not that guy. I'm never that guy. But I do think as a character delivery in terms of villains in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, this version of Zemo is spectacular. I know it's controversial. Some comic book purists didn't like that he wasn't wearing a costume in the first one, or whatever.
He kind of was.
I guess whatever.
Yeah,
I could not care less. I mean, you're free to have your own opinions. I'm not trying to be a jerk about it, but like I absolutely loved this portrayal. I love how complex this character is. Um, if you know what I mean, like I'm not saying that Zemo was right. I'm not going to be one of those guys,
No.
right? But
Yeah.
like you can understand where he's coming from, and he's not 100% wrong. I think Zemo and Killmonger and a few other characters. We'll just say Zemo and Killmonger. Yeah, Thanos doesn't count. Because Zemo, Killmonger, you look at their motivations, and if you're looking at that meme where a brain keeps getting bigger,
Yeah.
like the weak aspect is these are villains. The bigger brain is like, oh, they're right, and the biggest brains are like the women in the movies are the actual
Yeah.
right ones. Like what's her name from Black Panther had the same mission statement as Killmonger, but it wasn't let's subjugate the world.
Yeah.
And like, no,
Or
she's
murder everyone.
right. And the same thing with Zemo. Sam is right in this story. He understands what Zemo's saying. He doesn't want super soldiers everywhere. He doesn't want an arms race. He doesn't want terrorists to go unmanned, but he doesn't also want to call them terrorists. He is the voice of reason, but Zemo just makes it sound so good. And him stomping on the super soldier serum instead of trying to take one, mwah, chef's kiss. Love the portrayal. Absolutely perfect, in my opinion.
He's nothing if not laser focused on what he wants to do. Like he's
Yeah.
very clear and doesn't really change too much as the show goes on. Like he definitely has moments of growth to an extent. Like when Sam rattles him a couple times, but like there's just that line, and it sticks with me of that like you can't seek being superhuman without having supremacist ideals, or like at least on a subconscious
Yes.
level. And that's like so like, oh my God, like when you think about it, like he's not totally wrong there. Like there's something about that desire to be better than everyone else that like, yeah, to an extent it's about being able to like, subject the world to your whim, even if it's not like, I don't want to take over the world, but I at least want to do what I want to do. And that might mean subjecting the world to your whim.
Are you talking about the theory of corrupt power corrupts absolute, or
Absolute
yeah,
power corrupts absolute. Yeah.
yeah? I
But
mean, it makes
even and
sense.
even yeah, but even he and when they say like, well, there's Steve and Zemo's like, well, and how many have there been after him?
Yeah.
It's just like
I do like that he didn't like argue that Steve wasn't good, and
yeah,
I like that
because you can't.
I appreciate two things that they did on this that I think was pretty well, and there's a little bit of fan service here. I like that they don't try to recontextualize Steve as a villain. You know, Bucky
Me
didn't tell him
too.
about Isaiah, but Bucky just never told him because he didn't want him to have to deal with that. Even Zemo doesn't say, no, he's an American colonialist, whatever. And I also like the fact that when they use the Isaiah Bradley story in the Truth comic, they experimented on him and other black people, and then eventually used that serum on Steve. And in this one, they blurred it. It seems as if they were just trying to recreate the serum and use it after Steve has already been on ice, which I think is a little bit more palatable for like the audience. Like if you were told the audience like, "Hey, you were wrong. That first Captain America movie is not what you thought it was. There was actually a Zero movie before that." I like how they're kind of honoring both sides of the tradition. Marvel just is a masterclass of making all fans at least somewhat happy. And Daniel Bruhl was amazing as Zemo. That scene, and there was only one of him with the mask, right? That's a perfect example of make all the fans somewhat happy. Most people didn't give a damn about the purple mask if they even knew who Baron Zemo was or the word Baron, right? He had royalty
He's
to
like,
him.
I am a
They don't
Baron.
give a damn about it. People who saw him in Civil War, they don't give a damn and only know him from Civil War. But the fans from the comics from way back in the day, they want to see the purple mask and they want to know why isn't he a Baron? And they gave us it, and it didn't feel like shoehorned in.
I think
Absolutely
he did
wonderful
say he was a Baron.
in Civil
Yeah,
War.
but you were just like, okay, Baron. And then later he's like, I said I was a Baron.
Yeah,
Pay attention,
and it
guys.
came in at the end when his Jeeves showed up to
Yeah.
shoot a bunch of people. I can't even.
And also,
Amazing.
like, about his. All right, the clothes are another. You can do a whole another
I don't
episode
know if I
about the
said David
clothes.
Brule or Daniel Brule. I'm bad at names today.
It's
It's
okay.
It's definitely Sebastian Shaw though.
no
The
Stan.
no
Sebastian.
Shaw. He's a member of the Hellfire
God
Club.
dang it.
That's also we need to talk about X-Men at some point.
Don't you edit
Oh
any of this out.
yeah,
This is
But
great.
give me
but
some
yeah,
X Men.
yeah, no, we're talking about like the clothes. Everybody's clothes were amazing, but he actually, because I looked at pictures of Zemo in the comics, and he actually does. They do adapt his look,
Yeah,
like even a little fur collar with the black
Yeah,
the
spots.
fur collar. Yes.
I
I
was
really
like,
like that. I wish they had given anything for the mask though, because he wears it in that one scene, and they don't give a lot of context as to why he's doing it, so it felt a little
Yeah.
awkward. I liked that he did it. It just felt a little awkward. Like there
yeah, he
wasn't like
found it in his old stuff, and he's like, hey, this.
yeah. It's a little odd. Like why is he putting it on for that one scene when he's just gonna take it off again? He never puts it on for the rest of the show. It's like I get why they did it, like, but it's also one of those moments of like, why is he putting a mask on? Like it's good. I
Right.
don't want to lose it, but like I want more context for it.
Well,
I mean, we get
that's
some of it later.
yeah,
I don't know.
yeah.
It was funny in the. You're not wrong, but you can't say that was one of the best. Like how woke he was. He's like, only
Whoa.
an American would think a well dressed black man was a pimp. And Sam's like every time he said something like that, Sam was like, what?
Yeah.
Because even I was like, I don't how do you but you're not I mean you're not wrong, but it was a
So
very confusing thing to deal
so
with.
good.
Yeah, but Sam does say that. He's like when they're talking about
Yeah,
Marvin Gaye. He's like, I mean, he's right. He's out of line, but he's right.
That's pretty
It-
messed up.
It was a
So.
very because you can't get mad at him for it because it's the correct opinion. But like, should you?
I love it.
What do you? Who
Oh
do
my
you
god.
mean, you people? It was kind
Yeah.
of like
All right. Are there any other characters we want to delve into? Because I could do an entire podcast on Zemo, but I
Yeah,
won't.
we could. Like, I actually do want to talk a little bit about our other villain in the series, or one of our other villains in the series, which is Carly, and the Flag
Mm.
Smashers, because I actually really do enjoy them quite a bit. I actually probably more than I think most people do who've seen the show.
Mm.
I really like their motivations behind stuff. Like it makes sense. Like I know that we're a little tired, even though we haven't had much to do with but we kind of want to leave the blip behind.
Yeah.
Especially because they called it the blip rather than the snap. I mean, come on, guys, stay with what's trending.
Well, the
But
snap is people leaving. The blip is people coming back. I think it should have been
there we
snap
go.
backwards.
Snap backwards. There we go.
Three snaps and a Z.
But I really
No,
do
no.
enjoy this take on these characters. Like I know what they're nothing like what, well, they're similar enough, I guess, but like they're not really the same character as from the comic books.
Yeah, I
But I
think they had the
still,
same goal of
yeah, one world,
eliminating
one people was
borders.
definitely what the Flag Smasher was, and to an extent, Captain America, both in this and in the comic books, definitely agrees to an extent, just not the methods of which the Flag Smashers try to become one world or end
Right.
nationalism, as it were, and go towards globalization. But to an extent, I don't think that's necessarily that's the big plan going forward for these guys. I think they're just like, we're being treated like refugees when we lived here for 5 years. This was our home
Yeah.
for 5 years, and we're being deprived of resources to the point where some of us are dying. And it's like, you can't just sit back and like pretend we're not here, or like try to maneuver us or move us out to another location that we don't belong in or that isn't our home. And it's like, it makes sense. Like this is the cold hand that, like, a lot of times the government uses for situations like this, where it's like, hey, we're
Yeah.
not refugees, we live here, but also like, well, we can't have you live here right now even though you live here, so we have to sort of find an answer that like we feel comfortable with and that you can accept, um even if that acceptance is, under force if necessary. But it's
Now,
like, it's, you definitely know she has a point, and that, not even a point, she has a righteous cause, like even to the point where a lot of people say like, oh, she blew up that building and there are people in it, and I'm like, yeah, that, but I didn't view that as like being, mustache twirly evil.
That's
That's
horrible.
just, huh?
I've oh my god, I was waiting for the time to tell you that I disagree with you, but that's almost reprehensible. There,
well,
that people just died in a terrorist attack. There's no, that's not cool.
I'm
I
not
don't
I'm
like
not
that
saying
at
it's
all.
cool, but I'm saying that the show doesn't stop framing her as sympathetic after that. It's not like she crossed the line and there was no coming back and she was the bad
I
guy now.
I disagree
she
with you on that, but I'll let Jen talk first.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I keep like jumping in. Like first of all, she's a very conflicting character. She's young. She's trying again, look out for her people. I'm not saying I agree with her methods, but also the oftentimes the good side provides like the weaponry for the enemies to prosper so they have someone to fight. And in a way, it felt like this fictional version was mirroring stuff that happened in real life.
Yeah.
And there's always refugees in real life trying to find some safe space, but in this version, like having somebody who's had nothing or stuff taken away from them, I just see their side of the story in a way that's just like, yo, you're taking it the wrong direction. You need to write, you need to talk to your diplomats. And the thing is, if you don't have, I'm getting like really political here, but if you don't have like the right education or the right resources, or if people in your area take those resources away, people like Carly have to take means into her own hands, which is, yo, these people aren't going to listen. Got to kill them. When she didn't have to kill those people,
Yeah.
No.
she could have taken it on a different approach, which was, look, we have the power. I'm not threatening y'all, but I'm threatening y'all. Something like that.
Yeah.
If she were more of a diplomat, there really wouldn't be much of a story.
I think
So
this so I
yeah,
think the conflict here is that, like, I will say that there is a compelling story about we'll say refugees, with people with no power who are forced to do horrible things, or what the external people would see as horrible things, in order to gain power back to survive. I think that's definitely a story that's worth telling. I don't, and this is just my opinion on it. I'm glad it worked for the two of you, but for me, this is where the series failed. I don't think they did a good job of detailing that in a humanized way. I'll tell you right now, as a person who, as a child of refugees, that there were no humanized characters in the Flag Smashers that got screen time, right? None of the people who were just talking about how life was during the blip. Like, I didn't get any firsthand experience of the suffering that these people had to suffer through. I don't know the motivation of what this global the GRC, I think it was. I don't know why they're putting people back, or they're deciding to mass exodus. And at the end of the show, I don't really know what Sam did to fix anything. He talked on camera, and people are like, "Yeah, that's a good argument." What? No one brought this up beforehand. It felt rushed, and I guess we'll talk about why it felt rushed in a little while. But I do feel like this is like traditional. This is a traditional failure of American television, most of all, is
Yeah.
to sum up the story of a refugee where the main refugee you follow through this entire thing is unequivocally, I'm sorry, a terrorist. She is killing people. I'm not saying that she couldn't be motivated for her reasons. I'm sure she may have, but I don't really think they played with it long enough for me to be like, "Oh wow, it was really bad." It wasn't until the last episode that I even heard that people were going to be forced back across borders into countries that they didn't live in anymore. And I think a big part of this is that the blip is such a huge thing, which is why Al mentioned earlier we don't want to be bogged down in the blip. Maybe that's like a deep cut for non-pro or fan club people. But my concern with that is, like, I don't want, every time I go to a movie, I want that endorphin run. I want to hear a story. I don't want to think about the world that is dealing with a very weird, fanciful sci-fi refugee crisis. Like, that
So
feels like it would be tedious after a while. And because they don't want to play with it too much either, I think they don't want to give it like a 12 episode series talking about the reality of life in the blip. All you have is like your imagination to fill in the blanks, and that wasn't enough for me to justify murder. When I see it on screen, I'm like, no, I didn't care enough about that.
so real quick, you're saying you wanted to empathize a little bit more in order for it to be written a little better in terms of how the refugees approach the situation. I'm not saying like fully justify, but at least have a better understanding. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. Yeah, like
Okay.
if I had one of the people who, for example, the person that Walker kills, who is showing a little bit of hesitation and talking about Captain America. I don't need a character who worships America, but if one of the people with Kylie was hesitant about it, or even just expressed consistently as a main character, not just as a walk-on, no-name character, the doctor that's in the camp that Bucky talks to. If it's a part, the closest we got is Sam's sister. She's
Mm-hmm.
the closest to a person who is suffering partially because of the blip.
Yeah.
And she's nowhere in the world of the Flag Smashers and their terrorist organization. So, like, it really felt unfulfilled to me. I think there's a lot of potential. Well, there was potential. She's dead. But
Yeah.
I think it was squandered for me. At the same time, I'm like, I like that you like it. I feel like you got something good from it. But
Yeah, it definitely hit a little different, not a lot different, because I also agree to an extent. I would have felt bad if the show had just pure villainized her from that point forward. And I did like
Yeah.
that even after going a certain line, both the show and Sam, like the character, did try to say like, oh no, we can still bring you back. You can still like, stop doing this. You cross the line, but it's not about like, oh no, she's pure evil now and there's no redeeming. It worked well enough for me. I don't want to sit here and say like I'm condoning violence and all this other stuff. That's not what I'm saying.
yeah, no,
Um,
I
yeah,
get that. You don't go on podcasts admitting that, but I know you truly do.
I think the guy Walker killed was probably the one Sam should have been talking to, because it didn't seem like any of the rest of the people were really with her on the violence thing.
Yeah,
Like when she blew up the building, like everybody was like, why'd you do that for?" Like the rest of her little group weren't, I guess, as radicalized, I guess is the word.
yeah,
So he could have, if he had talked to any of the, especially the one that got killed, which I think was kind of the point of, you know, one of the other things about why it was so bad. He killed like
yeah,
their one in.
yeah.
Yeah, I think they were more like nobody. I don't think any of them were really up for like killing.
And think of how awesome the story could have been if they had enough time, real estate episodes.
Yeah.
If they explored whether the super soldier serum is the thing that maybe, or the pursuit of power, because it's like an allegory for it, is
If
one
it
of the
makes you
things
more
that
violent.
corrupted them and made them, like Kylie wasn't ever going to be this
Yeah.
person until this imperfect serum on an imperfect person, as we all are, except for maybe Steve and whoever's worthy enough to carry the hammer, like these weird human exceptions. That would be an awesome thing to explore, because then you almost get it with Walker, where like you kind of consider whether the horrible things he does is like, is this even in his hand? But it's sort of in his hand to have put it in his hand in the first place. Like if he
Yeah.
didn't take the drug, he wouldn't have had all of this is really interesting and worth exploring, but they didn't have enough real estate to do it, which I'm fine with. I know there are B plot villains.
Right.
I'm very hesitant about it being refugees, because it is very easy to be like, hey, I feel bad for X real world refugees, but amongst them, there's always going to be a poison thing, and you never want it to, like, that's a slippery slope to me, and I think this series plays too much.
I don't know, because I never saw them as villains. They were the morally gray obstacle in the way. I never saw them as like the actual bad guys of the series.
And
So
I know I get that, and that's cool, but like it's interesting that my wife and I, from our cultural perspective, immediately saw it. So
wow.
we immediately thought, oh, she's being played as a terrorist. Why did she heel turn? This is ridiculous. Why did she go so hardcore on, we got to kill everyone? And we saw it clear as day, and you're telling me that you don't see it. And I'm not saying that this is definitely a race thing, but
No,
hey,
no.
maybe. Yeah, and that's
No, it
really
would make sense
interesting.
because like it's just walking in with a different mentality, or like
Yeah.
walking without the experience of it. You could say like better representation of the idea as opposed to someone who just blows up a building with people tied up in it, and that makes
Yeah.
a lot of sense.
Yeah, it's interesting, and this is very complex, and it's one of the things that I think is great about the show. And I
Yeah.
also think that a lot of the failings on this will be tied down to how rushed things were. Which, I mean, we could even talk about it at
Yeah.
any point, whatever you want.
I would also say like one of the flaws I think that does hit, and unfortunately with the Carly story plot, is the fact they wanted to leave the character reveal for the power broker till like the tail end of the series. And I feel like if we had just found out Sharon was the power broker in her, like not the characters found out, but if the audience had found out that she was the power broker in like her introductory episode, there could have been a lot more dialogue or pressure or any character building as Sharon versus Carly in this story to like have, because she's the one who kills her is
Yeah,
Sharon. Like Sharon
and
is revealed to really be the big antagonist of the show to an extent. So it really feels like, man, if you had just given these two like genuine female characters any amount of time to play off of each other or build
right.
anything up to that like confrontation so it would have any context or any weight, and to sacrifice all of that for a reveal that everyone saw coming a mile away, I feel like that was just such a waste.
Yeah, and imagine what it would have been for like the commentary on American colonialism's role in terrorism across the world,
Yeah,
right?
to
That
essentially sort of create that thing all on its own. It's just yeah,
pressure
whatever.
from the power broker is what's making her do these things, and that's sort of in the text. But because I actually thought the power broker might be a hyper intelligent ape, John can talk about that later on in a podcast, in a Patreon exclusive. I literally had this conversation with him, and he said apes are for DC.
And
That literally happened.
yeah, and I think I was right.
No, you did. Well, I don't think Sharon is a hyper intelligent ape, but we
Well,
never know.
Giganta is.
Mm.
We're all
I
hyper
only found
intelligent
that out
apes.
recently that Giganta from DC was actually an ape, and
Are
I'm
you
like,
kidding me?
no,
Are you?
Mm.
No way.
no, she was an ape that they turned into a person.
Oh
All
my
right.
god. I'm so mad that you said that to me. I'm actually like really upset.
You should not be. It's DC. They have a mad on for gorillas.
I love
I
that
noticed that.
this actually reset everything so we could talk about the
Oh
next topic, because that was so desperately needed. Any other
Yeah.
characters that we want to bring up?
I was gonna
yeah.
talk about John Walker real quick.
Oh yeah.
So
Yeah,
We
no.
treated John Walker the way the series did.
The way the
Forget
series-
Yup. Okay, so just bear with me and hear me out, and if you want to interject, by all means, okay? So I did not like John Walker. He was a very conflicting character to me.
Controversial opinions, y'all.
I know, controversial opinions,
I've
and
never
like
seen a character have such an uphill battle before he was even introduced.
I know.
Brilliant.
The thing was, I felt like, hear me out here. Just, Lord, just hear me out.
Yeah.
I felt like he was a personification, and I'm stretching here, of the people who are young white men who want to be heard and were conflicted with, being the center of attention in said show. Because lately we've had more, we've had more diversity in shows lately, all across the board. This is how I'm seeing it. I'm not saying that this is 100% true, but his character was very right from the get-go. He had a presence of, I don't really like you, you're not going to represent Captain America the way that you're supposed to. Captain America's milk and cookies. Oh my gosh, let me wave to every neighbor. There's a penny on the floor, he'll shine it, put it in his pocket, and skip and pick flowers. Well, not really pick flowers, but you know what I mean. That's how I see him, and like I want to sit on his shoulders and take a picture. John Walker, I'm like, yo, dude, why are you angry though? Why are you angry? Like I felt like I have to be the center of attention. This is about me. I have to be Captain America. And I know he was trying to fill in big shoes because, like, think about being someone so grand, like not the president, but like a lot of our fictional characters that
He's an icon. He's a representation of the
he's
country.
super perfect that not even the drug that will make you into an evil Red Skull person would make him into an evil Red Skull person. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. You get it. So what I'm trying to get at here is just like I felt like they were not subconsciously, but just putting the point that some people will see John Walker as offensive as, oh my God, now they're saying that white people are bad and that we can't be the heroes anymore. Because I'm going to be honest with you guys, I've been to conventions where other younger white men would say stuff like this to me, and I'm a young black woman. And I would tell them, like, no, none of that is going to happen ever. And you shouldn't be afraid of, having conflicting or different characters and diversity in shows, because just because someone writes something one way doesn't mean that it's going to come out the same way you would write it, something like that. But so when he killed, I forgot the character's name.
One of the Flag Smashers.
Okay, so when he...
my point exactly. One of the Flag Smashers.
I did recognize him. I don't think he was just like a nobody. I just don't remember his name. He had lines. He had a personality.
Mm-hmm. You keep saying
he got he lived up to his name, Flag Smasher, Head Smasher. Anyway, no, sorry. That's where, his military side came in. His friend, his partner was, like most military people have partners. And my brother was in the military. He told me stories about when they were in Iraq. They had other people from different military branches stay with them. And one of his friends just literally got bombed. And he told his friend to get down, and PTSD just rained down upon him. And I saw that within John Walker. I didn't feel like he was a stable person. I mean, military people need, in my opinion, real life and in movies, better mental health. They need to be taken care of better. And I know this is a fictional thing, but
that could have been the subplot to this entire series.
And
with him and Bucky.
Yeah, that could have been the beeline for the entire series about you need to go to therapy.
I have a friend who's a comedian, but he's also a Army veteran, and he was like, "This got me in a place I didn't know was there."
Yeah,
and and I watched this other video from a female veteran, and she's like, there are John Walkers all over the military, and the problem, and they're very unstable, and the problem is nobody ever tells them no. My thing with John Walker is I expected to hate him way more.
Yeah, that's my take on it.
And it's a weird feeling to not hate someone as much as you want to.
I don't even know if I don't hate him as Yeah, it's weird. I don't know if I don't hate him as much, but like I do. Like, there's something sad about the "I am what you made me."
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, that
yeah,
I
he's
entire
agree. I
scene
agree.
yeah,
is so
and
good.
it's a wonderful line. So I think like Steve Rogers is the idealization of an American military person,
From the
and
40s.
it
A
was well, just
glorified.
yeah, sure, but it is an idealization which maybe never was real, but it's definitely an this icon. And John Walker is the I don't even want to say the reality because I don't want to insult people who are veterans or like
No.
that. It is
Yeah.
another take on it. It is another uh, way of looking at a military person, and it may be a little bit more realistic, a more nuanced way of looking at it.
And he does talk about like you're like, oh, you got those gold stars, like, yeah, for the the worst day of my life, like the things that we did over there, like I'm not proud of them, but like everyone keeps celebrating it.
That's
And,
why
and
that's why I don't see that's why I can't hate him as much, because he wasn't just like, yeah, they were animals and I slaughtered them like animals. So
He
he's like,
definitely wasn't a cartoon version of the villainous soldier,
yeah.
which is
yeah,
there
like
to
he
to,
wasn't a
to
good guy. Let's not sit here and like say that, but like that doesn't mean he wasn't still a character, and that
right.
there wasn't still motivations or layers to who he was, and that like there wasn't reasons why he did the things that he did, and like
And
I
that's
feel like that made him really fun to watch
mhm.
and like really enjoyable. That doesn't mean that we sit here and say like, oh, well, John Walker's not a bad guy. It's like, well, hold on.
Well, all I was thinking throughout it was like I've met men like him before.
Yeah,
I've felt their, their anguish, but this is the type of person that I would talk to in real life and then they would get mad at me and I'd be like, "Okay, I'm not here to challenge you." And this is the type of person that I'd be like, "Look, we need to get you some mental health, man." I'm
right.
too empathetic towards him, but I still don't like him as a character. Um I'm not saying that I despise him. He is a great plot device, and I can't wait to see him in the next chapter because you said the key word. Nobody says no to people like him. He
Yeah,
was told no, but then he was rewarded with something even better, and that is
yeah. He failed
so
upwards.
Yeah,
common.
failing upward is the
Yeah,
yeah.
and also there is genuine. I think he's complex, sure, but there definitely is an aspect to your point earlier of this is the person who thinks they're entitled to something. And
Yes,
honestly,
absolutely.
Sam has given it most like he has been the like good soldier. He's done what he has to do. He's humble. He doesn't think he deserves the shield. He surrenders the shield to a museum and is betrayed on every level
Yeah, afterwards.
Yeah,
afterwards. And
yeah.
this guy, I'll give you, he has some doubts, but the world around him says, "Don't have any doubts," which almost makes it more tragic because it's if he was just like a '80s like ski lodge villain, like he was just like, my dad owns a dealership, and like he's just really proud of himself and really self assured, then his fall would be meaningless. But the fact that he has all this doubt and the world around him says, "No, don't. You're perfect."
He
And as far as I think Jen also said something about like it being subconscious or like that they're trying to make you kind of not like this character. Soup, like they did a wonderful job. Look at his intro picture. There's
Dude, that went viral so
he's a
fast.
handsome man. Right, the
Yep.
actor is good looking. He's fine. Like he is not the monster that showed up in the Captain
Oh,
America thing where his head
oh.
looked all weird
Yeah,
shaped and like
it was
goblin.
weird. But
The
when
costume design was fantastic to
I
make
read
him
this
look like a
really
villain.
long article about the contrast between the US agent costume and the
Yeah,
the Captain America costume.
I
And
Mhm.
saw a
now
Ooh.
Twitter
yeah,
thread. Yeah, we
and
should put.
now there's like the US agent one is black. He's like, "Ooh, it's black." Um but yeah, like he's not Kurt Russell. What's his the fact that he basically copy and pasted genes from his dad. Like he looks just like him. Like I think I would have figured it out late like but in like the third episode I'm like, "Oh yeah, that's Kurt Russell's son."
Is it
Like
Kurt Russell's son?
yes,
Oh,
yes. When you
yeah.
look the next time you look at him, you'll see it very clearly.
Yeah,
Mm.
yeah, yeah.
Wait, I thought he was Who's
He's Kurt Russell and Goldie Hawn's son.
Yeah, Goldie Hawn. I'm sorry,
Some
that's what I
people said
meant.
he looks like both of them, but he has the chin is
Does
there.
this mean we're going to get Goldie Hawn in an upcoming Marvel project? Please say so.
Yes,
I hope she's
please.
going to play Adam Warlock.
Well, they do like bringing back older
No?
character actors. I mean,
Don't you dare call her older or character or act.
well, what did you call who was the Wasp? Not the old Wasp. The
Michelle Pfeiffer.
It was Michelle Pfeiffer. Yeah,
Yes.
they had Michelle Pfeiffer. They had. I'm bad with names too, but Hank Pym.
Yeah, all right. We're just gonna move off of this.
No, so I'm
Yeah.
not. I'm saying Goldie Hawn is
It's
in that
possible, and
range of
Adam
character.
Warlock.
No,
So I said it twice. If I say it one more time, it happens.
there's one. There's
Goldie Hawn
one
as
more.
Adam Warlock.
So now I'm wondering. Like a lot of people have been speculating about Young Avengers because
That's not
a
gonna happen.
lot of the not a lot, but like half the cast is already somewhere in the MCU,
Mhm.
and Miss Marvel is coming up at some point,
Right.
and Miles
Ooh, and Hulk.
and
The She-Hulk.
She-Hulk isn't young, but
Oh,
Wiccan
wait.
and
Sorry, you were saying the Young Avengers.
Wiccan's
Excuse me.
Wiccan Speed,
Yeah.
Isaiah Bradley's nephew
Such a
is
deep cut.
Isaiah Bradley's nephew is one of them.
Isn't the guy who was helping Falcon in this, helping Sam,
Yeah, Falcon
one guy?
Isaiah's
later
nephew
becomes
is
Falcon,
Patriot, I think.
Yeah, that's not. No, I meant
Oh, you mean
in the military. I kinda mean.
Yeah, the guy that was helping Sam in the military becomes
Yeah.
Falcon.
Yeah,
in
Yeah.
who I just met him, but if anything happens to him, I will kill everyone in this room and
Yeah.
myself.
Yeah, that
Like,
character.
he was immediately beloved.
Adopted by all the internet. We're getting a little off topic here, but yeah,
A little bit, yeah.
I don't think Young Avengers is going to happen because until after Mouth of Madness, no, the Multiverse of
Multiverse of
Madness.
But
Madness.
we could have West Coast Avengers.
Listen, if I can't have Goldie Hawn, Adam Warlock,
I can't have
you
West
can't have
Coast
West Coast
Avengers.
Avengers. I want
But I
that.
actually have a small sort of greeble that I want to bring up about the character because but going back to I was gonna say Frank Walker, John Walker.
Yeah.
Going back to John Walker for a hot second, I do have a minor greeble with the character, which is I feel like there's a lot of portraying of the character, and Frank, I think even you said at one point when he's building the shield in his basement, it's like allusions to the Unabomber and kind of like a man like sort of slightly unhinged. When he finally does show up in the finale, he sort of gets a very heroic moment, or kind of heroic moment. The show frames him as kind of like, oh, he's doing some good stuff, and it's like I don't know if I quite liked it, but at the same time, like I accepted this character has a lapse in good judgment, for lack of a better term, and that makes sense. But it also feels like, come on, man, like this guy genuinely killed a dude, like unarmed, pleading for his life, and like everyone saw.
I
it,
think
and
the
we're just
show is
kinda like,
conflicted about him.
I think the show is conflicted about him, but I think first of all, I say the most unbelievable part of that show, I think, is that the U.S. government already cared that one of their agents killed a person on camera.
Yeah.
There was also, because in the first episode you said that about them respecting airspace.
Oh, the whole of them flying into, they're like, we can't go into that country. It's not
Funny.
it's not our airspace. I'm
That
like, no,
part seemed
American.
very Iron Eagle. Like that was something they worried about in like Top Gun, like airspace in Libya.
I watched so much of this with a jaded kind of this is not the way it would work. But anyways,
but I think what people were expecting of John Walker was for him to be full out MAGA racist, and that's why I don't. And I was like, this isn't what I was promised. This guy isn't as hateable.
I think
nearly as hateable as I was.
Up until his cosplay scene where he's building his shield in the basement and everybody dragged him for a week. I mean, that thing's gonna fall apart the first time you throw it. I assume
some good memes.
Mostly cosplayers were outraged by this. But other than that, in the last episode is where I think they really lost the thread on him. And I think that's what Al was saying earlier. Is because at that point, it's like, is he redeemed? Kind of not really. They just didn't seem to know what to do with him. And I think that the 900-pound gorilla in the room that we're not talking about, why the show feels rushed towards the end, why the Walker line kind of just sort of trails off into nothing.
Can I get one more thing in about him?
Sure.
That? Yeah, so I was talking about like expecting him to be a MAGA racist. His whole support system was black.
Yeah, it was.
And I've been thinking about that for a while. Like, was Lamar like a magical Negro,
Uh,
and I'm like, I
No,
don't
he's the
think so.
two.
He was just his friend. Like, I
Yeah.
don't even think he was a
I
sidekick.
think
Like,
it's
he
I think
got
it's realistic. I mean, like, he's in the military. I think.
yeah, most of the military are minorities, yeah, but like his whole support, like his black wife, and that was the most unrealistic part. He never brought up his black wife because a white man who has a wife of another race brings it, especially Asian. They bring it up within the first two sentences of
Yes,
meeting
they
them.
do. Yes,
Well,
they do.
as me and my black wife would say, like, and he never brought it up. That was completely unrealistic.
But John's not
Interesting.
wrong though. Like that's something that seems very integral, like or at least intentional in the production. Is like how, who keeps lifting him up, like his school that he comes from, his partner, and everything else. It's
Yeah, I think going
Him
into
and
the
Bucky
show,
do, and
yeah,
it's like I don't know if that's a is
I
that a
don't
message? Is that trying to say something, or is it just a thing?
I don't. I think it's just. I think there's things happen. Now, I think going into the show, you might think, well, they're definitely going to make. If the question is whether a black man can be Captain America, and maybe the foil in this is the white Captain America that people chose instead, even though, or not people, but the government chose instead, even though he
Mhm.
doesn't seem like the right fit. You'd think that racism is the motivation of the white character of Walker, and it wasn't. And I think they pretty much early on kind of didn't build that out.
No,
And I
no,
don't think I
no,
don't think you have
never
to.
at any point did
Yeah,
it seem
so
like that.
I think
I'm
I don't think
glad it didn't.
yeah, and I think it was a good choice because instead they chose to use Walker for all the things we already discussed about him,
Yeah,
about how
Mhm.
as a person in the military and someone who thinks they may deserve something. I don't think he thinks he deserves it more because he's white, but I think he definitely has an entitlement.
Yeah, he's,
Um,
for lack of a better term, I think he's a victim of his privilege, and not to use a buzzword, but like I think that
yeah,
that's where a lot of that comes from, and what he sort of may or may not like be in the story.
I think
Well, when
some of it, yeah, maybe.
when you always get what you want, you think that, the minute somebody says no and it's a diplomatic no and it's a reasonable no, they think that, oh my God, everything's getting taken away from me. Everything. This is outrageous. They can't
Right.
handle it. So that's just such a common thing.
Yeah. And I want to also acknowledge that he doesn't always get what he wants, even early on. Like, it doesn't seem like he really wants to be, like, he doesn't want the awards that are
it didn't
hanging
seem
off his
like he wanted
chest,
it.
but he kind of does.
Hmm.
It's a weird, nuanced place. It's one of the reasons why you have such difficulty describing to some people what privilege is. Like, if they
Yeah.
personally grew up poor, and you're like, well, because of privilege, you have a problem seeing X, Y, or Z, they can't imagine like hey, I was not a privileged person. I didn't grow up with a silver spoon in my mouth, but that's not what you're talking about. It's really just
Hmm.
about perspectives, and he's not going to be able to see that perspective. So
Hmm.
it's really complex, just like it is in the real world. And it's amazing. This was 6 episodes, but like I was saying, that's that last episode, that sixth episode, the 900-pound girl in the room. Why everything feels so rushed? I think we have to address it, and I think it was COVID-19. I think COVID-19 shut down production on Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and I think they had to do a lot of rushes. We know some of this happened in WandaVision, where like the reason why I guess spoilers for WandaVision, I want to call it out. It's a very minor spoiler, and I'll only talk about it for a second, just in case people haven't watched that series yet. But Kat Dennings doesn't show up in the last episode very much, but for one thing, because they couldn't get her back because of travel restrictions. So
Yeah.
a lot of the things that happened, a lot of locations, like Mandrapore was awesome. The fact that they introduced it into Marvel Cinematic Universe, awesome. But that last scene was like this dingy. Last episode was like in anywhere America. It could have been in any city. Just like it was in Atlanta and some on some street where they closed for a day.
It
It was
was definitely Atlanta, but I think they did a good job of making it look like New York with the
yeah.
scaffolding
The scaffolding
because
really pulls the
that
place
is
together.
the most New York staple more than anything is
Yeah.
scaffolding.
And I don't have a hell of a lot of insult in what maybe was left, but I know there were rewrites. And I think why Sam has kind of like this weak ass little, hey, maybe we shouldn't be pushing refugees away around. Why did you ever think about what other people are feeling? And I'm using the worst Sam voice I can muster because it really just like I got that he was giving a good speech. I'm like, all right, but I didn't think it was that great. Like it wasn't the delivery. It was just the whole moment seemed awkward.
Well, that was his Captain America moment
I think
because
it was
the most important thing is you have to. talk and people listen. Because even Rocket was like, cynical ass Rocket was like,
listening to
he's pretty good at that. Like,
I think the difference, and this may just come down to opinion, I did not think Sam's speech, I wish he had a better speech. Or maybe this is actually down to the blip. Maybe the whole, like, the politics of the blip, like I was saying, and what the refugees were going through. Like, never had a good grasp on it. So hearing this one guy on TV who was admittedly dressed in a fly Wakandan Captain American Falcon suit, saying,
Love it.
"Hey, have you ever thought about not being jerks?" And I'm like,
They're
"Oh,
like,
that's great."
they're
No,
like,
we
we
did it.
haven't.
We did it. We're senators. I don't even have a full name. I just have Senator Bad Guy. That's what they told me when I came into this.
To
morning.
be fair, a lot of the senators are new because most of the old ones were Hydra.
Dang.
There's been a lot of turnover.
I love it.
It just sounds like you're talking about the U.S. Senate in general.
Woo! Yeah. No. But like, I didn't temper it for me. The 6th episode, I looked at it and I was like, Sam, you gave a great Captain America speech, even though I didn't really like it too much. But like, I feel like that I can't blame you for, we had to do this on a budget in a short amount of time because of COVID-19.
Oh, real quick. This is how I felt about the speech. Again, going back to TGIF Fridays, if it had that music, that piano music, like, da-da-da-da-da. Well, you see, folks, racism is wrong. Da-da-da-da-da. And you guys shouldn't be mean to each other. Da-da-da-da-da. Something like that.
I would have
It felt
lost
like that.
my mind if Sam turns to the camera, or even just Anthony Mackie, like, he out of costumes, like, we've had a lot of fun, but let's talk about something that isn't fun: racism in America. And he just looked. That would have been perfect.
Well, I heard that the party at the end was like it was actually like a cast party, and they just filmed it and made it part of the show.
Oh, that's cute.
Oh my gosh, it's adorable and ridiculous.
It was like the wrap up. It was like the wrap up party for the series.
That's too perfect. I can't imagine that being true. Plus, there were not enough John Pope-esque people in the background. Deep cut for non-pro listeners who are like production assistants, or sitting there eating shrimp,
looking
going
haggard.
yeah, I'll carry all that equipment back to the car, no problem. Like, it didn't look like maybe a cast party, not a crew party.
But he was the only white guy there. Bucky is.
Yo, Bucky's
He definitely put that. When I saw him, when he was like, "This is my sister Sarah," he was like, "Hey boo, hey," and I was like, "Oh, he picked up some preferences in Wakanda, definitely."
Yes.
He's gonna learn how to do the electric. He's gonna be the only one to know how to do the electric slide at the next wedding. I'm telling you.
Yeah.
The Cupid shuffle.
Yeah, man, he's gonna be the only one. I'm sorry. Okay, I didn't mean to bring this up, but have you ever been to a wedding and you're like the only black person there, and nobody knows how to do the Cupid shuffle? Yup. It's a thing.
My unfortunate lot in life to be the black friend.
I am too. Oh my gosh.
If it helps, John, I don't consider you a friend.
If it helps any, I don't consider you black. I was so close.
Wah, wah, wah.
You're never gonna get a better end. You're never gonna get a better end for this episode.
All right, with that, I'd like to thank everybody for showing up and coming out to talk about Falcon and the Winter Soldier, an amazing show on Disney Plus. Like, if you like what we had to say and you want to hear more about it, please go to Non-Productive.com or join us on the fan club at Facebook.com/NonPro. We'll see you there. You want to see anything that has to do with John Minus John? Where can they find your stuff?
On Twitter mostly. My username is at Don Coyote.
You do this professionally. Why are you so bad at plugging?
Because I'm not very professional.
Oh, all right. Hey, non-professional. That's not the site.
There we go.
DonCoyote.
At Don Coyote on Twitter.
Yes.
Yep. And Jen, if we wanted to follow your career, where would we go?
Well, you could just go to Jen with 2 N's, Dupree with 2 E's, VO.com. And you can listen to my demos, my professional commercial demos. I've done over 230 jobs. And just let me know if you want a cartoon character or a commercial if you're interested.
This also sounds vaguely like Call to Violence. I've done many jobs.
Good night, everybody.
Wink, wink, murder.
This has been a non-productive media presentation. Executive producer Frank Hablawi. This program and many others like it on the Non-Productive Network is distributed under a Creative Commons Attribution Non-Commercial No Derivatives license. Please share it, but ask before trying to change it or sell it. For more information, visit non-productive.com.